You talked about going to the forest and doing shrooms with your mom.
Yo, that was the best.
You have a very highly documented incident at an airport where you got arrested with shrooms. Yeah. That almost happened to me once, and the dude was cool enough to just throw them away.
Yeah, I had too many of them.
Was it the TSA guy that hit you?
Man, you know, I've been on a extra security list for a lot of years.
Okay, so that you already were flagged, kind of.
I was flagged since the time I was like 19. But you know, it's funny because I was actually I was cutting my antidepressants cold turkey. I've been on 15 antidepressant medications.
So you were medicated pretty heavily
since I was age 15.
What were you on?
I've been on Lexapro, Zoloft, Effexor, Wellbutrin, Prozac, you name it.
Wow.
Probably about 10 to 15 medicines over a span of about 10 to 15 years. And I realized that those medicines were making my mental health worse. If I stopped taking the medicine, they were making me suicidal at times when I began taking the medicine.
Yeah, I've heard that those are very bad.
So I decided I'm going to cut the medicine, basically cold turkey, and replace it with microdosing, like a non-psychoactive, very small dose of mushrooms. And I figured, man, going to Ghana, this would be the perfect time. You know, I'll be in a more beautiful environment, in a more peaceful place, and it'd be a great time. And
you were going out there for your festival?
This was the year before that.
Okay.
This was the year before that. But we were laying the groundwork for the festival. And I had all these microdose things because I reached out to different companies to send me stuff. Yeah. They sent me way more than I asked for. I threw it in a bag, was bringing it back with me, and, you know, boom, got slammed, and I'm all over the news and XYZ. But you know what was ill about it was like I was so deep in my meditation at the time. I was used to meditating for hours on end. Yeah. So the moment I realized I'm getting locked up, I didn't start stressing. I started meditating. I'm like in a cell, like, you know what I'm saying? And mentally, I was light years away. I was back on the beach in Ghana, and I was like manifesting my freedom and just my blessing from the moment when it started to go left. So when they called me and they're like, okay, the lawyer is going to be $20K just to start, a retainer. Do you want the good one or do you want the, you know, cheaper lawyer? I said, man, just give me the lawyer, you know, because I told myself, I thank God that this money has been returned to me in a perfect time, in a perfect way. Yeah. And the day I got out was a Wednesday. Thursday, DJ Oreo brought me to come and do a club performance at Tao in Chicago. Handed me $20,000 cash the next day. I was like, oh, this shit really work. You know, whatever I was trying to do before and, you know, trying to scam this and trap that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I could just move in an upright way with intention and with a positive energy, and the universe would give me that shit. You know what I mean? I don't have to PPP that shit. You know what I mean?
PPP. Them boys was eating, bruh. I was gonna say, would you say shrooms? Because I'm a big shroom guy.
I love shroom.
I think that, you know, I know it. I think in Oregon, for therapeutic purposes, there's like full legalization. They're doing like psilocybin therapy in Oregon for like people with PTSD.
Well, that's basically the way I do it now. You know. I'm sober except for the psychedelic stuff, and I use it in a healing capacity, like its original purpose, like in indigenous medicine. So I peeped those psychological clinical trials that they're doing, and it's about 1/8 adjusted for your body mass, and they'll put you in a room, like basically a hospital room with an eye mask and ambient music in your ears, and that's the way I started doing the shrooms. And I'll be either in a dark room with an eye mask and the earplugs or the ambient music and just go into my mind, you know what I mean? And use it to like deconstruct a lot of the fear and just like negative emotions and confusion that naturally comes from living the way we live.
Yeah, I think what people don't understand is like, if you eat shrooms with intent, you'll get something out of it. Now, if you're partying and you're like, I want to eat some fucking shrooms at the club, you're going to get that out of it too. You also might freak out a little.
You might freak out. But that's what I realized too, is like since I started to treat it in the way that I treat it, like with respect and reverence, I don't have bad trips.
Right.
Because I'm not running from anything. I'm not just taking this to try to have just a jolly old time. I'm taking it because
You want to confront something.
I want to confront something, and I want it to reveal things to me. So there's not really such a thing as a bad trip if I'm not afraid to confront whatever is coming.
Yeah.
And if I'm not trying to dictate the way that this would work. Like my problem with mushrooms in the past when I was a kid was that I started to lean on them as a crutch creatively. And I got to a point where I felt like I had to use mushrooms to make dope music. That's when it stopped working. That's when I started having bad trips. So that's when I moved on.
Yeah, because you're using it as a crutch for something, and that's not what it's supposed to be for.
And for me, that had a expiration date each time.
For
I
sure.
remember right when the mushrooms started to not work. So then I did some Molly and wrote an amazing song, you know. And I was like, okay, this is my new crutch.
Yeah.
And that stopped working. Started snorting Adderall. That stopped working. Started doing coke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That never worked in the first place.
I've never done cocaine, but I mean,
You're not missing out on anything.
that's what I've heard.
You know?
I know. You know what's crazy? The Adderall shit. I don't think a lot of people talk about it, but like, yo, man, in the music industry, the creative industry, Adderall is running rampant because a lot of these guys who have to stay up, edit, engineer, a lot of dudes, they kind of depend as Adderall as a crutch because it really is like I mean, you could speak to it. You've done it. I've heard it's kind of like, what's that Bradley Cooper movie where he takes the
Limitless.
Limitless. I heard it's like a Limitless type of situation because if you want to get a bunch of shit done, you know, I got homies who'll edit a whole fucking complex music video in like one night because they're off of an Adderall. But like, I feel like a lot of creatives are dependent on that right now.
All that shit just doesn't work forever. Is the thing,
Right.
and it fries your neural pathways.
And like, you're gonna burn out on that shit.
That's what I mean.
The come
Like,
down is crazy.
from the Molly to the Adderall, which are really two sides of the same coin. It's amphetamines. It's synthetic serotonin. It's pumping your brain full of dopamine and feel-good chemicals. But when you're off the drugs, now your body's not able to produce those things in the same way. So you get what they call Suicide Tuesday. And you just be mad depressed because you've used all the serotonin. And it's just not sustainable. Like, so I started to seek out natural ways to spike my serotonin. So I got deeply into meditation because when you meditate, that makes your serotonin levels spike like 30%, you know?
Crazy.
Massages give you serotonin. Spending time in nature.
Have
gives
you done the
serotonin.
deprivation tank in the water?
Yeah, I did that a while back.
I heard if you do that, like you could kind of like trip balls low key if you're in there long enough, just with nothing.
You can straight trip off breathing.
Yeah.
I be doing like deep breath work. You know what I mean? There's one I do called the Wim Hof breathing method. And like, you know, it's a lot of deep breaths and then you hold your breath. You do that for 30 minutes, like you be high. Like you could trip with absolutely nothing, just off your breath.